Yeah, we will.
Now,
Once again.
Krista, we're good to go.
Okay, well, welcome. I'd like to call the first face-to-face planning and zoning meeting to order for 15 months?
Yep.
I'd like to call it to order. Would you do roll call, please?
Hankins,
Here.
Triplett,
Present.
Sires,
Here.
Bowersox,
Here.
Olfest,
Here.
Vogel,
Here.
Dietz.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Looking over the agenda, anyone want to make a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move. Approve. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay. Do we have any public comments?
No, ma'am.
No. Okay, thank you. And now we have the approval of the P&Z Commission meetings from last month, April 19th.
I'll move approval.
Okay, we have approval. Second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All
Aye.
opposed? Anyone opposed?
I'll have to abstain because I
You
wasn't
were
here.
gone.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, our first order of business would be the Crossroads at Lakes Plat 2. Do you have anything to tell
Sure.
us?
Yeah, I could kind of just run through this briefly. We've got Rob Wadley from Hy-Vee here as well,
Okay.
so he can certainly add in and chime in anytime he wants to. What we have is a request to amend the zoning restrictions. We kind of followed the procedures as if it was a full-blown rezoning. It's really just a proposed amendment to the zoning restrictions. If you recall, back when Crossroads was approved, they rezoned the Polk property to PUD, and then had a C2 for commercial lots along north and south 3rd Street. I'm sorry, all south 3rd Streets there. And the very south 250 feet had some zoning restrictions placed on it. That was next to some Pine Ridge Estates existing single family. And it was limiting the use of that specific area to, let me read that just so I get it correct. Businesses and professional offices, medical offices, and health clinics, studios, which would be music, photography, dance, and fitness centers that were less than 6,000 square feet, and education, such as childcare, daycare centers, and preschools. Subsequent to that, council approved a minor rezoning for a 30-foot strip simply because the plat lot lines didn't follow exactly what the zoning district lines were. So the east 30 feet of the south portion is still just zone C2. No restrictions were placed on that part, partly because it fell within the buffer zone, so it was not buildable anyway. So, and then back in May, council approved the site plan for a Hy-Vee Fast and Fresh convenience store on the north lot. Actually, part of the parking, the very southern part of the parking lot actually fell into the C2 restricted area, but because it was parking and not the building, that was permitted. There's no restrictions against parking. At this point in time, however, Hy-Vee is kind of looking at a different development concepts, and so they're asking to amend those zoning restrictions to allow a grocery store that would allow a grocery store in their parking lot on both. So that's where we are.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to hear a little bit more about what they plan to do there, so it kind of makes sense to us why they want to do what they want to do.
Yeah.
You okay?
Yeah, and they have submitted a preliminary site plan that we anticipate would probably be coming before you next month, but I'll let Rob share as much as you want to share.
I am Rob Wadley with Hy-Vee, obviously, as Matt says. But yeah, it's this, last time I was here, actually it's probably city council last time I was here, we were proposing the same thing over on the city property over on the street. This is a little bit bigger, that was like 22,000 square feet, this is 27,500. It's a smaller format grocery store. It's gonna have a lot of the same things except for less of the service items. Like, we're not gonna be able to put in a bakery, and just service items like that. We will have a bakery, we'll have bakery items, excuse me, but it'll have wine and spirits. It's got Joe Fresh, our clothing line. It's DSW shoes. We'll have a health and beauty section. We mentioned wine and spirits, domestic and craft beer selection. A lot of the grocery items we have in our bigger footprint stores like meat, seafood, dairy, everything you could think of at a grocery store. And then also we'll have some self-checkout lanes. Let's see, a little bit of information on it. 18,000 items, 200 fresh produce items, and about 1,000 specialty. That's about all I have.
Yeah. And I can just, in terms of the site, and Rob, you can
Yep.
correct me if there's anything I say or misspeak. In terms of the site itself, the gasoline canopy would go away, so you wouldn't have that lighted canopy that's near residential. It would just be a parking lot and a building. And the building itself would be oriented kind of to the north, with the parking lot to the north. So on the back side, it's really just landscaping and buffer, that kind of thing. And then that wraps around, buffer then wraps around to the east. But again, you don't have those high lighting levels that you see with a.
I mean, currently we own about 3 acres, 2.8
Yeah.
something acres.
Yeah.
A lot we're trying to rezone is about a little over 1 acre.
Yeah, it says 1.8 acres, but that also includes right of way, so.
That answers my question, because I was curious how you were thinking about siting building, because when this had come before us before, we were concerned about the
Right,
next door neighbors, and so we had the restrictions put on that particular
Right.
piece of ground. This sounds like
yeah, I mean, if anything, like if you live, I'll say on one of the lots due south, you'd have landscaping and then the back of the building. Whereas now with that lot being vacant, you'd have some landscaping, but you would also see then that gas canopy.
Right.
And it would be, I wouldn't say that landscaping doesn't help shield it, but to say it would be fully shielded. You know, so I would think, from my own perspective at least, the impact would be less when you don't have that lighted gas canopy.
I guess
That's my own personal
Yeah,
opinion.
if I could add to that, I think in the plat, it says there's 30-foot landscape
Yeah.
buffer
Yeah.
on the south, right on the so.
Yeah, but with the back of the building facing that way.
Mhm.
Do you have truck loading on the backside or
No.
anything, or? No.
Yeah, that'd be kind of it'd be on the east side where there's, the newer lots that aren't occupied
There's a
yet.
lot of spots there.
Yeah,
A lot of
yeah, there is, and they do have
The houses
landscaping
to the
along
south,
there,
yeah.
so, too.
Do you have the locker pickup that you had before, files online?
We don't know what we're gonna do on this one. I think this
Okay.
one is actually going inside the store, you have to inside the
Ah.
store, put it on, or they'll bring it out to the car.
Well, the real important question is Starbucks.
Starbucks? No.
Probably won't have that, no.
Starbucks.
Okay.
I've noticed that Hy-Vee, like at the new one in Ankeny, that extended the same or similar architecture even around the back. Do you intend to do that with this?
That is a good question. I don't know if, I don't believe we've actually come up with the elevations for that yet.
So when the site plan comes, we'll get the elevations.
Mhm.
I guess I'd encourage you to do it because, I mean, the side of the building now is gonna front on the street side and you have houses all around you. And I know it's necessary that you have a dock of some kind.
Yeah, I believe, because of topography and everything else, I believe the loading area will be in front of the store. So,
Oh, okay.
load to the front or it'll be on the very, I guess it's the south. I'm sorry, the northeast side of the store. It's kind of where we're proposing. It's just a smaller lot, it doesn't have a lot of depth going from east to west.
Well, just to add to that, your code does require a 60% brick or an acceptable alternative to brick on on the sides that faces the public streets, which would be the west and the north. But then you've got a 50% requirement on this, what would be on the south and the east. So it's not like there's no requirement, architectural design standards for those sides of the buildings too. So it's a little less, but dropping it from 60 to 50.
I'm
In terms
trying
of
to
treatment.
remember, does Hy-Vee use that much brick or do you use Drivet or something like that instead?
We do use a lot of brick.
Okay.
We're kind of changing our storefront a little bit, go away from some brick in the front. The sides are
Thanks.
Any other questions? Ready to vote?
Oh, I guess I did just have one question. You had mentioned that this was similar to a true rezoning. Was there notice sent out to?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I
all-
meant,
All
yeah.
of the neighbors, in advance of this?
Yeah, I should probably should clarify. what I meant by that.
Well, I'll go ahead and make a motion and recommend to the council to approve the amendment to the zoning restrictions portion of lot 39, outlet Z of Crossroads at Lake Plat 2, purpose of high value fresh grocery store.
I'll second.
Yeah, go ahead.
Olfest,
Yes.
Vogel,
Yes.
Dietz,
Yes.
Jenkins,
Yes.
Triplett. I'm sorry, say again, Deanna.
Yes.
Sires
Yes.
and Bauer
Yeah,
Sox.
yes, yes. Okay. That has passed, so.
Can I ask one more question? The first thing I'm gonna get when I get home is what the expected timeline of this?
The reason, I think it's 3 hearing council. As soon as we get approval, we're in the design process right now, so hopefully we start way.
Okay,
That's the
great.
intention.
Okay, thanks. Sorry I didn't bring it up.
No, that's all right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to our next one is 117. East Broadway rezoning and PUD master plan.
Yep, I thought you were here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can kind of start off, and again, you can jump in whenever you want to. This is a rezoning to a PUD master plan. Quite frankly, it's fairly similar to the one that was on the other side of the street. So the one being platted is Stanley Plat 1. The properties in question are kind of that tannish stucco house and then the yellow building, kind of the commercial looking building. And those buildings would come down. And he's proposing is 2 different options. One that would be 3 single family lots, and then the other option would be 4 lots that would have 2 family homes on it. So then we've got the zoning restrictions laid out based on those options, where they would have a master plan. Obviously, they would be required to come back to you with a preliminary plat. So we would work out details related to, how that would be served with utilities, how the trail would be extended, and and have them showing driveways and that kind of thing. But right now, what we're doing is laying out the bulk regulations, if you will, that plat would come in. And you should have seen the two alternative kind of lot layouts there. The restrictions that would be on the zoning ordinance and with the plat would be that it is required to be platted prior to issuance of any building permits. That the use of the property would be restricted to single-family detached or single-family by-attached only. The minimum lot width would be 52, it says square feet, I apologize, 52 feet for a single-family homes and on a lot width, or no, I apologize, that's just written poorly. It's 39 feet for the by-attached homes for a lot width and 52 feet for a single-family, so that was written correctly. Then the minimum lot size would be 6,400 for single family and 5,000 square feet for each of the by-attached, which would be 10,000 square feet for the 2 homes together. By-attached dwellings would have to have a shared driveway that is no more than 30 feet wide, and the single family would have a 16 or an 18-foot driveway. That's what we talked about. And then the minimum setbacks for all uses would be 30-foot front yard, 6-foot side yard, and a 30-foot rear yard, and that's whether it's single family or duplex. And then require a 10-foot recreational trail in front of those lots.
Kathleen, can you define for me
Mhm.
what you consider a planned unit development?
Well, a planned unit development, realistically, the way the ordinance is set up is anything that deviates from your standard zoning. So what they're proposing now is a little bit smaller lots than what you would be able to get if it was left under the current zoning. However, the current zoning is C1, so single family and bi-attached uses are allowed. So really, this PUD plan allows him to build, I have to look and see, I think I listed it there. It would change the duplexes to, the minimum lot would be, let's see, if we say 39 foot for each of them as opposed to 42. So it reduces the lot width by about 3.5 feet on the duplexes, and reduces the lot width for a single family, sorry, trying to,
Okay, that's,
from 65 foot to
yeah,
52 foot.
that's fine.
Yep.
To me, you know, I gotta go back to the sixties when I was in college, and I actually wrote a thesis on planned unit development. Okay. So to me, it was like these big areas where it had different types of housing, it had commercial with it,
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Sure.
But you're saying under our ordinance,
Yeah.
we say it's used when we want to change the zoning someplace, and
Yeah, I mean,
gives us
that's
more flexibility to do something.
right.
Does it also give the flexibility to come back and do something other than the housing?
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
So it could come back
Mixed
with a
use
commercial
or
if we
commercial.
rezone it.
Mhm.
So it's really up to them as long as all that's in there.
Yeah.
Unless we place a restriction on it of a specific
Yeah.
use.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, and the way that it's set up right now, because it's only been reviewed for single family or by attached, they would have to, then they wouldn't have to rezone it, they would just come back to you with a PUD amendment, which again, still follows the same kinds of regulations. They don't have to get consent this time around, you know, if they came back later, but they would still go through the notification, public hearing, is the way, just the way any other PUD, if you change the master plan.
So they just couldn't change their mind and do something else because it actually was in PUD realm of possibilities.
Yeah, I mean, they would have to come back with a PUD master plan amendment, but not a rezoning. That makes sense.
And what we're doing now is
Is rezoning it to PUD and having the master plan. I mean, anytime you rezone to PUD, there has to be a master plan that goes with it. In this case, the developer is proposing single family and bi-attached, so that's what the master plan is for. He hasn't decided yet which one he's gonna go with, so that's why he got both of them in front. So it gives him the option depending on market. Feel free to add anything.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's, yeah.
So-
Looking for the flexibility, and those are the only two things that I would like to do with it. And like she said, yeah, you really could go by attached with the zoning the way that it is. It could be 4 doors sitting there again, but I would need a little bit more room to do so. Need it shrunk up a little bit.
And it's a little bit more from the width standpoint than it is the overall area. I mean, it's, because a lot is a little bit extra, you know, has some depth to it, so, like I said, the larger impact is just the narrowness, so.
So approving this leaves him open for either option yet.
Mm-hmm.
Just to, I guess, throw this out there, just because I, on occasion, will harp about not wanting to give up commercial land in our city. The portion of this that's currently zoned commercial, I think, is really a gross misfit for that parcel. It's really a historical purpose when East Broadway was a busy street and we had a lot of traffic going there. So just wanted to clarify that this is a very unique circumstance where you know, getting rid of this commercial zoning in that location, I think, would be good for the neighborhood. Also, should we decide to go ahead and approve this, this will be the second time in this neighborhood where we've talked about going through some smaller lot sizes that kind of fits into some unique aspects of that neighborhood. As we're going through our planning and going through our comprehensive plan amendments, we might want to even consider coming up with a name for this neighborhood with some unique zoning features for it to kind of make it easier to promote this, this lot size in the future.
Good thought.
Any other thoughts? My motion.
So a little confused, so this is, the way it's worded as an individual home address, but we're dealing with multiple properties. Is that how the motion should be?
Yeah, the other lot doesn't have an address,
Okay,
so the legal description, it's, yeah. Is, I don't know why it doesn't, there's a building there, I don't know why, but at least the county does not list an address, but, so.
And can this be one motion, to approve the comp plan amendment and then recommend to council the master plan PUD?
I would do two.
Two.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just one more thing, because there's an option here of different types of housing.
Mhm.
Does the developer want some type of indication of what we may like to see better, or you wanna just,
I'm all ears. I'm just, really like, I'd really like to fix up. Obviously, I did, the project across the street. I think it turned out pretty good and just kind of want to kind of conform and kind of do the same thing. The only reason,
and
the
across the
bi-attached
street
thing-
is what? Bio-attached?
no, those were single family, but the bi-attached, just, we're dealing with a little bit more land there. It's just kind of a little bit more unique of a little setup that's there, and it, and with construction prices as crazy as they have gotten, trying to make things a little more cost effective as well.
I understand. You know, our preference would always be my preference would always be the same family, if that's what's around that area. If it's bi-attached around that area, then that's a different story, so. And I just offer that, so.
Yes, there is one bi-attached just right off the backside of the single family units
Oh,
that
okay.
I did do. And then there are some, well, those are bi-attached, mean kind of the same thing. And then some duplexes that are a little bit further south of there as well. Mine, these, and yes, I tried to get, my plan guy to come up with a couple proposed front elevations for those. It would be kind of similar if you've driven by, there's a white one that's kind of in the middle, that has a little dormer. It wouldn't, I'd rather not do a two-story type. There is a bi-attached in the neighborhood, to the southwest of those single families. I think it kind of looks a little out of place, a little large. I was gonna shoot for just doing more of a smaller ranch type. It just didn't seem so overwhelming. Kind of conform with what's across the street as well.
Well, I don't see anything wrong with what you sent to us here.
Yeah, and those two stories, from a single family standpoint, again, yeah, if I go single family, I was gonna maybe do a two-story and a couple of ranches, or maybe two stories in a ranch, and if I go with bi-attached, just takes the house, the whole dwelling's gonna take up that much more space. I was just gonna try to, just not get so vertical, I guess.
Yeah, I don't mind the verticality, but because it opens up more space around.
True.
Ranches, to get what you want, have to spread out.
True.
So I don't think that's a bad thing to go vertical.
Yeah.
I mean, it's lower priced housing. It's not gonna be probably old people like me that
Right.
can't walk up steps, you know.
Correct, yeah, absolutely, yes.
Just my thoughts.
No, I
I don't know if
appreciate it.
anybody else has anything with that.
I'm all ears, that's for sure, yeah. It's gonna, one of those I'm sick of looking at it, so I think I just kind of said, okay, fine, I'm doing it, let's get rid of it, so.
So we need one motion to amend the plan, and then the second
Master.
master plan. Okay,
The first one would actually be comp plan and the rezoning though.
It should be two separate. first one,
We did it as one,
okay,
and then the second one would be for the master.
usually the master plan should go with the PUD because the rezoning, the PUD requires it.
Got it.
That's- Sorry.
I want to make a motion, so we're gonna make a motion to approve an amendment to the comp plan and the zoning
Correct.
to, I don't know how to put this.
Or is it just like it says in 7A?
Yeah.
Where it's in the wording?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, right here, so start there. Okay, I move that we recommend to council to approve a comp plan amendment from commercial to residential and rezoning petition for 117 East Broadway from C1 to PUD.
I'll second that motion.
Hankins,
Yes.
Triplett,
Yes.
Sires,
Yes.
Bowersox,
Yes.
Olfest,
Yes.
Vogel,
Yes.
Dietz.
Yes. And I will also move that we recommend to council approve the master PUD as presented to us.
I will second that.
Olfest,
Yes.
Vogel,
Yes.
Dietz,
Yes.
Hankins,
Yes.
Triplett,
Yes.
Sires,
Yes.
Bowersox.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There's some, okay.
Everybody's coming back with a lot of text.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, moving on, we're going to, the preliminary plat review for the Big Creek Commons. You have anything to tell us?
Yeah, and there are some people online too. I can kind of run through it pretty quick here. This is a preliminary plat for what they're now calling Big Creek Commons. It was previously kind of referred to as Big Creek Technology Campus. Obviously now they're going to the residential there, so switch the name up a bit. And it'll essentially be, there'll be one M1 lot that just was not platted on the north side of the school. And then from there, the rest of the lots will be single-family lots. It will also include a large lot for the future park. The single-family lots essentially encircle the park. There's actually two streets to the east, but then it wraps around. It has one connection to Northside Drive and a connection to Madison Street. Madison, it's not Madison Drive, right? Madison Street. Well, I'll say Madison. Does it? Thank you. Sorry. And there is a trail connection that would go from the park southeasterly on that little R1A flag that serves as a driveway to an existing house to that's kind of southeast of this plat. But they have included the driveway that was discussed at the time of the rezoning. The lots are in conformance with the rezoning, whereby most of the lots are R1A, but there are roughly 27, and I apologize, I don't know the exact number, R1 lots at the southwest corner of the development. Just wanted to touch on some issues. The comprehensive plan, as we discussed at the time of rezoning, does include two north-south collector streets, but the city has, agreed that we can essentially bypass that east one, which is where the trail would be, in favor of just the one north-south collector, but that would then go through the park and be incorporated into the park, and then it would essentially, so it'd start at north side, go north to Madison, and then from there it would run through the park, and then we'll extend on north to the North Platte boundary for future connection by developments to the north. Also, that the city's currently working on the master plan for the regional park. 10th Street, and as it's shown now, it's possible that depending on where the parking lots and that kind of thing wind up being in the park, that street might move a lot or two to the west just to better line up with the parking lot in the park. Wouldn't change the number of lots or anything that way, so, but that, and then the services, services are shown on there. Let's see, the city would be constructing the trail across the south side of the school site as a separate project that will then run through the park, and then we'll extend to the north where, between 2 lots on the south side of East Vista, 2 lots on the north side of East Vista, and then it will connect, from there it will connect in through Polk County's project and go on up to the Oasis as part of the High Trestle Trail. So one of the things that this plat shows is that they are showing a 10-foot wide trail easement on the north side of East Vista. If you recall, through the industrial lots, there is a 10-foot wide trail easement there, and we had asked them to show it all the way over to that north, the Trestle Trail, High Trestle Trail connector, but we want to make sure that that is still the intent. Now that the city does have essentially a parallel trail on the south side of the school site, keeping in mind that the trail on the north side would have, I believe it's 25 driveway crossings, as well as some of the industrial driveway crossings. So it's a question of, do you need one across the south side of the school site that gets to the park? And then since you'll have that one, do you need a parallel one on the north side? So we've asked them to show it because that's kind of continuing what was in the past. So we would like a recommendation on whether or not that trail needs to be continued.
A recommendation from us.
Yeah, just on whether or not there should be a trail on the north side of East Vista. Because that's kind of it's shown on the plat, but we want to make sure that that is what everybody is intending, wants to have happen, because we'll have site plans coming in for those industrial areas, and we need to know if it should be a trail, or if a 5-foot sidewalk would suffice, since you've got the other trail. In conjunction with the potential future site plan for the school, if they should ever do a larger building addition or build a second building on that site, because there is space, that there would be a second driveway connection to that north-south collector running through the park. So just so you're aware that we bring that to attention, because I think it was a secondary connection was something the school had wanted, and rather than having it go to the north and East Vista, we felt that from a traffic standpoint, it made much more sense for that to go east to the school, especially if they were running back and forth to Allen or that kind of thing, rather than all the traffic going to East Vista and west. So that's kind of a future thing, but just wanted you to be aware of it. And also, a traffic impact study will be required for this development, just the way we've been doing in the past here, or based on the new subdivision regulations. However, right now they're proposing to come forward with the first plat, which would be kind of north of the school and up to and providing the connection to the parkland. So no more than 30 residential lots. Those lots were considered in the school traffic impact study, so we've kind of deferred an updated traffic study until plat number 2, which would be when the street connects to Northside Drive. At this point in time, we've asked them to show 2 southbound turn lanes, but obviously what those improvements exactly are will be based on the traffic impact study. But that would come before they would ever do construction during approval and move forward with plat 2. Obviously, but at that point in time, we'll know a little bit more about what's going on in the park and that kind of thing too, so it'll be a little bit more accurate traffic study. That's really it. In terms of our review comments, we did receive a revised stormwater management plan today that addresses the stormwater management concept. The other comments are pretty minor. The first one relates to whether or not they show that the trail easement on the north side of Vista, and the others are fairly minor comments that we'll make sure are addressed before it goes to council. That's it. Until you have questions.
I have several.
Sure.
There's two kind of colored site plans here, one on your letterhead and the other CEC. Which one's the school site? Is it just shown on one you gave us?
Well, on the one on my report, I don't know, but it's the R1 right here.
R1, that, okay.
So the green one is the park.
Okay.
So the school and the park have a fairly long common boundary there. So again, that gives opportunity for that driveway connection pretty much anywhere along there. But the school, this is the school site right here. here, I can kind of walk.
That, I got it.
Okay, you can see it.
Yeah.
And then the school does
That's what I
own,
thought it was.
they do own this large outlot to the west there that's trees that they're, at this point in time, not developing or haven't shown any development on.
So the school's next to the park? Is that
Yes,
correct?
yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
And can you tell me a little bit about the park? I mean, that's big. Are we putting a stadium in there?
I'll let Chelsea speak to that.
The concept is not yet finalized, but it will include a number of soccer fields, baseball, softball, a splash pad, a dog park, a trail, concession stands, restrooms. I think that's it. But yes, it'll include a number of amenities.
Would that eventually take the place of what's down here on Bridge Road, or would that also stay?
The plan would be to also keep that. We need as many fields as we can get, yes. So I don't know what the plan is for what would be where, but we would get to that point eventually.
Just, it's real, I mean, when I'm on a computer, I can blow it up, you know, and I can read it. But then when I get here, I can't read it. And are they still required to provide larger drawings? Or is it all just like this that they come to you on?
With the hybrid version still, they're just doing it virtually.
This is okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
if council were to approve the plan, then they're required to bring me a large one for files here.
Okay. But that's kind of the new policy there. Right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So if I can't read it, I can't make comments about it or really do my job to recommend stuff, because there's stuff on here for 50 years that I understand and can read, but I can't do it.
So you can read it on a computer, but
I
you're saying
can't.
when you print it off, you can't read it.
Yeah, because it comes off at this size, but I mean, my computer's 3 times this size, and I can blow it up and do that stuff too, which I really do. But then by the time I get here, it isn't all in my head. So I just wanted to know if there were plans that come in that I could come down and look at, or I could or we could possibly have for the meeting to look at or something. I understand this virtual thing and what we're doing. That's okay.
My assumption would be, had someone been here in person, they might have brought the board document that they usually do to show you during the meeting. But with them all 3 being virtual today on here, I don't have anything like that. We could blow it up on there.
That was my
That was another option we
suggestion.
would have.
Yeah, that would have been helpful tonight.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Yeah, that's a possibility. That would really solve a lot of things, because, you know, we could see it, and Kathleen could actually get up and point to it.
Or laser pointer, yeah.
We can certainly give that a go.
Kathleen does a great job
Yeah,
describing
pretty
all this.
Yeah.
But, you know, I lose you after about 2 minutes.
Oh, sorry.
Because I'm trying to,
Uh-huh.
because I'm trying to think about what you just said, and you're already on something else.
Okay,
But, I mean, you
yeah, but
really
I'm not
do,
explaining it.
you do a great job doing it, but if it were up there, that would solve a lot of stuff.
For
It
example,
isn't too much to ask.
We
but
can do
that trail is the one thing, because I had real trouble trying to visualize
Yeah,
what that was about and how to.
yeah, and I apologize, I don't have one myself, where I'm talking about, and I realize the scale of this, and I can walk around, but where I'm talking about is it's basically from the southeast corner of the park down, and you'll see that little orange tail on your memo. That's where I'm talking about, the trail. There's actually a little footbridge there, and that's actually a driveway there's.
Right.
So this is where I'm talking about right
Right.
here. There is a house that's here, and that serves as their driveway as
There was
well.
something about whether or not to have it, or recommend it, because there was something.
No,
that was-
where I'm talking about the parallel trail.
Okay.
And then I think that's
Is-
the one. There's
Okay, this is the trail that the city's gonna be building,
Okay, all right.
okay? That would go from Third across the south side of the school's property, both the wooded area and across the school site. There's an easement there that was recorded with the plat. So there's plans to build a trail there. Then it'll meander through the
Do you want
park
me to send this to you?
in wherever it needs to go. And then it will come out and that's where it would connect eventually from there, it'll go due north, or virtually due north, and the county's working on that project. So it'll connect basically at the Oasis. So then my question was whether you needed a trail on the north side of Vista here as well.
Okay, that's what I was trying to.
And that's where I was saying, there's a lot of driveways. It goes through an industrial area first and then all these driveways.
Okay,
Kind of get you to the same point that the one that the city's doing here.
Right.
If we have this one in.
So they would be essentially parallel.
You'll tell the sidewalk.
I'm sorry, I don't have
Every
a
trail.
better drawing to show you.
Trail.
Here, I have this pulled up, but I
Yes, you
can
can
pull
see
up
it
the
on the back.
connector.
A lot better.
And it's-
I just put it in my memo.
We'd have
Well, I
to
suppose
use
it's
it.
a little bit there too.
It doesn't do any good, I can't read it through the glass.
Oh.
Well, I can't read it without the glass either.
Give me a second.
I don't like that height.
Oh,
It's just a
the
glow
reflection,
on it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Light reflection.
Oh, it reflects off that.
Yes,
Oh.
yeah, oh,
I
yeah.
never set up there, so I don't
Well,
know.
for,
This is good.
you see 5 different people in here. I can see everyone over
I
there.
can see everybody going in and out of the pizza place twice.
Okay. Here's what Kathleen's talking about, trail. Need a visual.
right.
So here's the square,
Yeah,
and that would be the connection to the high trestle trail.
I got it. I mean, I was, that if there's.
Yeah, I mean, this is a piece of where
The redundancy was on that.
I'm talking about where, whoops.
Yeah.
Where this is
Oh, yeah,
the
very-
last
Well,
Got it?
Yeah.
Who else
This is
has
the
the
last
trail?
There we go.
industrial lot. And obviously you've got industrial lots here. This is the school driveway. I mean, the school has a driveway here, one a little bit to the east here. So this is a vacant M1 lot that would be yet to be developed. The city already has 10-foot wide easements for a trail for all the lots from here back to North Third. So the question is, and we've got petition waivers, so the city can collect and have those sidewalks built or trail built at any time. However, since they weren't connected, those were kind of deferred. So at this point, okay, thank you. Here, do I have to push it now? I lost the light.
Oh, the top.
Sorry. There we go. Okay, so then the question is whether there needs to be a trail here, and it would run, and then it would go just a little bit over to here, and then on right over in this area is about where that next piece would be. So, and like I said, you can see that you're then crossing all of these single-family residential driveways. Then you kind of get into the question of the property owners not necessarily wanting to maintain that trail or not overly happy that that's in front of them, where you'd have another trail that's, right down in here.
Right.
That has
Yeah.
basically no driveways.
Right.
And then it would go directly to the school and to the park. So it's really just whether you feel it's necessary to have, because the other one's gonna happen, it's just whether you want this one as well.
So we
Honestly,
would,
Is that a better one?
Yeah, just because it shows a little bit more, because there's the High Trestle Trail connection.
we would then bring the trail from the north on Third down to the south border of the school and go through.
Yeah, the other trail would be right here. It would cross this collector street, and then it would kind of meander through the park, and then come up this way. Get it over. So, right here, because of the High Trestle Trail, at least where Polk County's got at this point in time, is essentially on the east property line. So the easement's actually just to the west of that property line there. So that's that gives you an idea of the distances here on the south side of the school property, and then the other one is right here.
But if the trail wasn't up above, there'd also be a sidewalk there, right?
Yes.
Yeah, there'd be a 5-foot sidewalk for your new code.
But if the trail's there, then that's the sidewalk.
Exactly, yep, yeah, it would be in lieu of. So then, with the plat, it's just a question of if it is a sidewalk, this is a 60-foot wide easement, and per previous agreement, that would be, then that would probably be reduced to a 5-foot sidewalk easement, and the sidewalk would be to the north there, rather than a 10-foot trail easement. And then when they called these petition waivers for those existing properties, particularly, I guess on the north side, really at this point in time, we just have Boland's building, that's the existing building that's out there, that they would put in the 5-foot. Just for continuity, it doesn't make sense to have one 10-foot section and the rest of it all 5. So it's really kind of what do you want to do with that whole corridor, all the way from Third to here?
So we'll have trail out on Third coming from the north,
Mm-hmm.
right, and that'll go down and tie into the south border of the school.
Yeah, well, actually all the way down to the city. but
It'll
yeah.
go all the way in,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah.
And you may have some bike traffic there, but I think if you get that high trestle hookup, I mean, you could pull some large crowds. I'd rather not have all those conflict points.
Yeah,
know, in
that's
my
what I
opinion.
brought it up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We kind of- Sorry, Ron, we kind of feel too, putting a trail in front of some of those residential lots, maybe not be as favorable. So from our standpoint, I think we're all okay with just a sidewalk being, along East Vista Lake. But that's up to you guys to make a recommendation.
and I'll just throw out some ideas, I guess, as far as, some things that could work. First of all, one of my pet peeves is probably the one that, here, that probably bikes the most, is, rec trails that go across, frequent driveways. I find it very unsafe for, traffic backing in and out. You get a lot of people that leave their car crossing the rec trail. And for people that do a lot of biking, when they get on trails like that, they just go out on the road. Because biking on the road, they find safer than biking on the rec trail, up on the sidewalk. The only concern I have about this particular situation is we have a lot of growth happening north of the golf course that's going to be coming in. And so the only concern I have is as the school kids from that development and those points to the northeast come down to the school, are they going to pass Vista, go south to the bike trail, and then, let me get my mask on here. Are they really gonna come down from that neighborhood, which is gonna be growing fast, come all the way down here, come across to here? The school's actually back here, but the bike trail they're gonna have kind of cuts back up that way. Or are they going to ride their bike here, or even, and certainly pedestrians come in here as well. And so, an option that we've at least talked about envisioning, but doesn't have any recommendation from envisioning, is if there could be some way to actually, so if they're coming in and they could use the rec trail to get over to the school, then, maybe have it end there, but that would be a trail to nowhere, and that's bad for everybody, because then bikes go that way and it ends. But also it causes them to need to cross from the north to the south side at this location, which is Polk. And so kind of the philosophy was if the trail could get moved from the north side, south side at all, which would impact those businesses, so that they could cross the road at the stop sign, come in on the south side of the street to the school. Remember, the school wasn't proposed here when we decided to put it on the north side, so that's kind of an afterthought. But it'd be a safer crossing point for the kids to do it out at the intersection, get on the south side, come to the school, and then the next time the school has a site plan update, actually have some way to get through the school property back to this trail that's coming down. So it wouldn't be a trail to nowhere, it would actually end up connecting.
Well, and they do have a future, on their site plan, they do have a future trail connection that goes, from the school property down to here. And the only concern I have with what you're proposing is that back when these easements were acquired, the park was gonna be on the north side of the street. This street was gonna actually kind of go down this way, park was gonna be here. Because of the narrow right-of-way, we have to acquire easements. Easements you can only acquire for trails on a voluntary, they have to agree to dedicate them, the city can't. So I think getting the easements for it on the south, I don't disagree with you, I just think that maybe getting the easements there could be a bit of a challenge. I would have to look to see if, depending on where City Laundry built the parking lot, if there really even winds up being, because the City Laundry building is developed there, and if they would even have space, especially because we've got a space reserved there for a potential right turn lane for the school. So physically, I don't know if there's, would be
So-
enough room to get by city
Yeah.
laundry. It would be my concern.
But
Maybe
I
there's-
don't see the value of the trail going in front of all of those 20-some homes,
I agree.
and crossing all of those driveways. And like I said, I find riding on them less safe than riding on the street. If that trail does end up then coming into the school, like I said, it does need to end up connecting through the school to something, but also would be really nice to have some sort of, stop sign at one of the exits of the school property on Vista so that there is a safe way to get across the street there.
Yeah, and we've kind of had some discussions about that.
'Cause that-
And they're showing
that
stop
won't be-
signs,
That
but-
won't be a route that I'd say, through town bikers will be using. That's really gonna be school kids from the northwest part of the town.
Do we see that high volume of kids walking or biking to school?
The school says no.
I don't know if
School
we do
says
either,
No,
from what I've been up there. From the distance you're talking about, I don't know that we'll see it. I think this neighborhood here you'll see it from probably, but
I would leave, and through the site planning process, the school repeatedly said that that's a high level of student,
Yeah.
that's a very high level. That they don't even have a lot of even as much parent drop off, but that we had to kind of push them to have them propose a trail connection to the south there. So which is why they showed that as a future connection.
And then just one additional item on the trail to the southeast. First of all, thanks to the developer and staff for working on getting that achieved. I think that'll help connect to the southeast part of our community when that finally develops to have a way to connect that trail. Also, from the southeast part of this development, it'll provide an access to the regional park that'll, I think, make that a lot more of a usable park. The only question I had was on that flag lot. The easement is showing being on the east or the west half of that lot. The way the way it's constructed there, I mean, it's steep slopes on both sides and a flat top, and so now we're going to be sharing that driveway with that resident. Is that what's going on?
Well, we haven't got detailed design on that. We have to get a little bit more detail when they do the platting, and we actually have survey information, because what you're seeing now is just based on LiDAR and that kind of thing. So it's conceptual only. They've shown it being parallel rather than, which is why, that there would be a trail next to the driveway and have them separate. We could have some discussions on whether, you've got some other place where maybe it's shared.
Okay.
It's shared, but essentially a shared use path where the driveway would be be a private driveway. We've also discussed the potential that house could potentially have a driveway to the development street too.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping to see that,
Yeah,
but it
well,
could work either way.
Yeah, part of that comes down to agreements between the developer and that property as well. So we may have some limitations on what can be done that way. And I don't know if anybody from, if anybody from NAP wants to speak to that, feel free.
I'd like to speak to it. I don't know if anybody can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Okay, this is Stuart Ruddy. I'm the general counsel for NAP Properties. I have spoken to Patrick Kinsey, who is the landowner to the east, on a couple of occasions. And ideally, what he would like to see happen is that he would like to access his property and has committed to us that he would be willing to buy a couple of lots along what's identified as Springfield Drive as part of Plat 3 of our development, so that he could access his property coming in from the west as opposed to going down to East North Side Drive. And so once we get to that stage in the development, at least right now, what we're going to agree to with Mr. Kinsey is that we will deed the remainder of that outlot, which subject to the terms of the trail easement, but that he will have the ability to buy a couple lots and then fit an access drive in between there So we're working with him so that he would actually access his property off of what is shown on at least my preliminary plat as Springfield Drive.
I mean, from my perspective, that seems like a really
Oh,
good
that's a-
solution if that
yeah,
could work out.
great
Sure.
solution. Because that driveway is really only the width of a bike trail when it comes down.
Mhm.
Actually, right now, that easement that Mr. Kinsey enjoys is a 60-foot wide easement, and the bike trail that we've been asked to give the city is a 30-foot wide easement. But you are correct, whoever stated, with the slopes and everything and the pond that's currently there, it does create some challenges to have the trail and the access be side by side, which is why we reached out to Mr. Kinsey about the potential for him to access his property from the west instead.
Seems like it would give him the opportunity to have maybe better fire access and that kind of thing as well. Fire truck driving down that.
Yeah.
Little bridge, what do you think, Bob?
I think it's a rail car flatbed.
Not. A lot of regulatory restrictions on it.
Jenny, thank you for doing that. Thank everybody
That
else
was
that
very
had
helpful.
anything to do with it, that's appreciated. So, that's really helps a lot.
Yeah, it does. Okay, are there any other questions? Is there a motion?
The recommendation that we might be making on the trail on the north, should that be part of, should that be a separate motion, do we think? Because I don't think we've talked enough about what we want there or don't want.
Well, it's not on the agenda, so I
I recommended that they give direction, I guess. in the
Yeah,
memo.
can we do that? I mean, can we make a recommendation and come up with some sort of consensus on the trail on East Vista Lake? Do you guys feel comfortable with that?
Yep.
Within the motion, okay.
Just like city council, we can do anything we want, right?
You can recommend anything.
Zing.
I don't get to talk in a while.
I'll make a motion that we recommend to council approval of the preliminary plat for Big Creek Commons, subject to staff's and engineers' comments and recommendations dated May 14th, 2021. And also recommend that we do not require a rec trail be built on the north side of East Vista Lake Avenue from the entrance to the school to the rec trail that will be built north to the High Trestle Trail Oasis, and that would be replaced with our 5-foot sidewalk.
I'll second.
Jenny?
Stiers,
Yes.
Bowersox,
Yes.
Olfest,
Yes.
Vogel,
Yes.
Dietz,
Yes.
Hankins,
Yes.
Triplett. Deanna, are you still there? I can see her.
Yes, sorry.
Thank
That
you.
works.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Oh, it's been passed then, so we'll move on to the update, the comprehensive plan recommendations and responsibilities.
Okay, so for this evening, we're going to discuss 4 topics that were outlined in the comprehensive plan for P&Z responsibilities. The first one is we did do a review of the code of ordinances to ensure that sidewalks were all listed as 5 foot, and they are. However, we would like to change or reference SUDAS anywhere it references urban design standards, or urban standard specifications, and we are asking for P&Z to make that recommendation this evening. The second topic that we reviewed was for cul-de-sacs, and this is something that we actually did not have any reference in our subdivision ordinance related to the number of cul-de-sacs per plat. So we came up with 2 cul-de-sacs per 40 acres with the availability to make exceptions granted administratively up to 3 based off of the topography of the plat. And that was something that the staff felt very comfortable with. So that would be an update to the subdivision ordinance. Parkway trees. This is something that we would change to chapter 151. And it would define street trees as any tree, shrub, bush, or other woody vegetation, which has been approved by the city council for specific location in the public right-of-way, parking, and or parkway easement. And finally, major street plan parkway designations. If you guys could all pull up the last page in your packet, we'd like to just review this real briefly and get some feedback. Oh, you do. Thank you. Okay, does everybody have this master streets plan? So you can kind of see what's designated as a parkway. I think from our perspective, it's pretty difficult to go in and designate a street that's already been constructed complete as a parkway. So our recommendation for designating parkways would be for future streets. So obviously you have the major parkway north of town, that would be a designation, and Northwest 44th. I think those would be very natural designations. But did we talk about Parker?
Parker is
It's a designated.
It's designated,
Okay.
but it was designated, at the time the comp plan came through, so realistically, I know we got parkway easements on, with Bridgeview. And I don't remember if we got them in Woodhaven. I'd have to look and see if Woodhaven came before or after. I would have to check, see. I think they did plant some trees there, but whether they were actually required to be parkway, I don't recall. So, but Bridgeview, does have some. And then also, Quick Start, when they came in, did have to plant trees along and provide a parkway easement there.
So I think just looking for some feedback from the commission on this general topic. I mean, do you guys like that direction that as far as parkway designation goes, it would be for future streets? I mean, that's something we can control. Parkway is a little bit better for than a street that's already constructed.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, the one thing, potentially like Northside Drive, the street's there, but you could pick it up on the south side where it's not developed. But where it's developed next to, obviously like next to the Door Frank Acres or whatever you could. So that might be one place on an existing street where you potentially could. The area to the north probably is unlikely to develop there. Yeah. Anytime. Yeah, White Tail Parkway winds up being the current new street that's going to be going in. We'll have parkway improvements with trees.
Looks pretty thorough.
Yeah. Do you want us to vote, just say yes or no, or?
Yeah, let's, if we could, so the recommendations that we're making to the commission tonight are in reference to sidewalk sections in the code, to reference SUDAS. The cul-de-sac, we would like to put some teeth in our subdivision ordinance that outlines the maximum number of cul-de-sacs. Yep,
We make a motion referencing this document.
yes, you can, yes. Yes, so the parkway trees and then the major street plan parkway designations. So if you guys want to do that all in one motion, we'll make that recommendation to the city council.
So your cul-de-sacs, how is the 40 acres being governed? If it's split up into different plats, or can you get?
It's more, yeah, I mean, if it's what we did, part of the need for it arose when the developer came in with Four Seasons, Polk City, and they had, I want to say 10 cul-de-sacs. And so that didn't fit well with the desire for connectivity, also can be a maintenance issue and that kind of thing. And so we worked with them to get it down. So that would be about what they had here. So you look at the subdivision as a whole, kind of divided by 40. And rather than each 40 acres,
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to
Yeah.
figure out how you govern that. If two guys come in with 20 acres each, they both get 2 cul-de-sacs. If it's two
Well,
different
it'd be
developers.
one. If it's only 20 acres, they really should only have one. And if they come in together, you'd look at it at the time of
Okay.
preliminary platting, so it's, and your new subdivision ordinance does require a developer, if they have a larger tract of land, to do a preliminary plat for the whole thing, so you get a much bigger picture
Yeah.
instead of just piecemeal, small pieces.
Yeah, I'm all for it. I just want to make sure we've got it in there right.
Mhm.
We pulled the last 10 plats
Yeah.
and we tried to come up with an average number.
Okay.
And that was where we came up with that per 40 acres.
Yeah.
But then
Bring that list with me, but.
we wanted to allow a little bit of flexibility based off of the property. So that's why we allow that change administratively to be made.
If you develop TCI again, right? There's.
Yeah, that's, yeah. We didn't, when we were counting cul-de-sacs, we didn't count
Yeah,
TCI.
that's kind of one of those special.
Because it's 100% cul-de-sac. But that's a whole special deal. And even if it goes beyond what we could administratively approve, if it's unique like that, the subdivision ordinance as a whole allows the developer to request waivers that would have to go through you guys and then to city council, so.
And theirs would have been terrain oriented.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And so I don't really know that we need an official motion or recommendation. It's more of, because we have to change this via code, it's more of, do you disagree with any of this before we take it to the next level where we would codify it? Because that has to go in front of council and all those normal readings. And we can do it as a motion and a recommendation. I just didn't write it that way on the agenda.
Yeah, that's fine. As long as we have feedback from you guys is what we're looking for.
What do you want to do?
I know you've looked at this a lot more than I have, but I'd like to give you more room and change the 3 to 4 cul-de-sacs. But I know you've looked at it and you have reasons why you want to limit it. I like them myself. They're nice places to live on. They're quiet. You don't have people speeding by. So I'm not I like the cul-de-sac, so I'd like to give you a little more leeway if you're going to do it administratively. If you really feel that it deserves, maybe 40 acres is big. And, 3 cul-de-sacs might find a limitation that you want to do, and if you're going to do it now,
Yeah,
you can always do just 3 if you want.
I
but-
think, so we were sit on 2. Staff talked it through, we were going to do 2, and I spoke up and said it'd be nice to have some flexibility for 3. So, just so you guys know, I think if we allowed up to 4, Four Seasons could have had the 10 cul-de-sacs for the whole development, which is a lot for Public Works to maintain. So we're trying to come up with a good compromise for allowing that type of development, but also knowing that the city maintains those streets.
You think it makes it easier for you to talk to the developer if you can only go 3 is what you're telling
Yes,
me?
yes.
Sure, I understand now.
Okay.
Yeah, because they'll take That's fine.
Okay, sorry. Maybe I think.
Do you want to vote on it, or do you think we gave them enough?
I think, yeah, have our feedback or
Okay,
concurrence.
okay, thank you. We appreciate it.
Thanks for doing it.
Thank you. So for tonight then, as far as the comprehensive plan recommendations, we've done what you wanted us to do tonight. Thank you. Okay, do you have any reports and particulars from the council, city manager, staff, or commission?
I'll go. So, I thought it was gonna be short, but I do wanna comment on some things that we talked about tonight. But I think in terms of, since we last met, the most notable progress we made at council meeting is approving all the school stuff, which included a pretty generous to the school, intersection improvement plan, their site plan things. And I made notes, because that was really all that I was gonna say for that. So two areas that I think both got hit on tonight are probably two of our biggest areas. With East Broadway has always been what can we do there? So I really like from the branding perspective, from the unique requirements perspective that you mentioned, and would like to see that, and also share your viewpoint on losing commercial, but did we really lose commercial? I mean, there's really not much. I mean, what size of place with parking could you have had on that lot? So that's what I kind of default to, but share. I usually try to say what you say in these meetings at my meetings, and I sound a lot smarter, so I'll save that next time. But I am, so, and I wanted to add some context to what Chelsea had shared. So the city had not developed 57 acres of parkland, so we made the conscious decision, and as a council, we haven't really done anything other than to hire an outside firm to build, hopefully, consensus amongst stakeholder groups. Talked about Little League Soccer. It's not certainly limited to that. Jason's been very diligent in not labeling it sports complex. It's a regional park. But to bring those things to us, it's going to be, obviously, just in my tenure, we've had a field bond vote for a very similar thing. There was another one prior to that. So any plan has to be made real, whether that's through phases, that's through a bond issue. Some of those are probably more likely than others, but a recommending body with professional services and not the low bid, consequently, just the company that seemed like could go that extra mile, could build consensus, could roll it out, a lot of those things. So very anxious to see it. I haven't seen much more than you guys have, but just know that was kind of the approach. It's not staff couldn't have done it, or we couldn't have done it, or we all could have done it, but I think the unique opportunity that we have with the development out there, with the school kind of making a turn from the technology park to the school to the park to the residential development, behooves us to kind of take a macro level strategic vision. All of that is at odds with the other development that's happening. Obviously, whatever the plan for the park is has to fit with what the schools do, has to fit with what NAP's doing, has to fit with other things that are happening there. So I do think it's probably, like most things, better to get it right fast, but we have a narrow window to be able to make these decisions on the trail connectivity and all those things. But having that basis for what the park should look like when it happens is another thing. But that's kind of been the approach. So just to key you in, and like I said, I'm anxious to see it. Like I'm sure you guys are. I do have some concerns, principally with the density, principally with some of the access points, and not to make my meeting your meeting, but that's why I voted against NAP's rezoning last time. And we'll figure it out, but those things are going to be tough. Good options, I think, to work through that, but all things that are going to have to work together because like, I think you had mentioned that, I don't know if it was the last meeting or the meeting before, but having the streets lined up properly sets up the next development in a way that, quite honestly, our previous developments in town next to Army Corps land or next to an already developed land didn't. So, I think that's an important point. Community vision, the plans for the trailheads plays a role in that too, I think. And then, the last piece on this, I kind of share somebody who lives on the cul-de-sac, they served us pretty well for this point. I do think as a funding mechanism for what we do with public works, it's important to note that, I don't know what the equivalency is, 5 miles of residence road equal the time it takes to plow one cul-de-sac or something, the ratio is pretty strong there, right? So, but this being recommendations, the other stuff to me is kind of a no-brainer, but I do think that the cul-de-sac could kind of share your perspective. So, but again, I think the subdivision ordinance and all the work that principally you guys did over the winter put us in a good position to be able to get some of those. Does it make sense? Does it not make sense here? So a little bit of perspective. Yes.
I have a question, a couple of things. I noticed there was planning for future buildings and things and growth in the city. And, this square here isn't going to last or serve the city the way it will need to serve the city, maybe 5-10 years even. And I'm glad that you didn't sell the park up here or whatever it was at one time. Is that where you're looking at to possibly expand as far as maybe city services more consolidated together? Or
so we got a presentation on the facility needs assessment that another outside firm has done for a lot of the same reasons. I don't know what the plans are to share them here.
Yeah, I can share really quickly. So, went through a process, did a presentation, evaluated the needs of each department, of each facility, and we planned for 30-year need. Like, I think that's very important when you're planning for a building project, because a building needs to last you 30 years to make it worth your investment. So went through this process, took about 6 months, lots of interviews with the staff. The proposed plan outlines the following for buildings. So the city owns the lot across the street. The plan outlines a new city hall across the street. And this is just all for planning purposes, so we have kind of somewhere to go. It's not going to be exact, but I'll just kind of go over the high level details with you guys. So City Hall across the street. The lot where the library is too small for library expansion. So it would be recommended to build a library and a rec center at 3rd Davis Street property. That would be a very large project. The police department would then take over the library facility. The library facility kind of met the needs of the police department as far as square footage and parking goes. And the fire station or fire department would then utilize the community room and the police department for their space needs. So lots of details to kind of work out, but that's kind of a very high level of where the plan ended up. There would be a new community center proposed with the City Hall building that would serve as council chambers, rentable space for the community, programming, events, etc. So that is what the plan looks like. As soon as the plan is done and it's in a pretty presentation, I will share it with you all. They're working on final touches with that, and we will get it out to the public.
Thanks. It's interesting.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Glad
some-
you're doing all that.
And some of us are lobbying heavy for restrooms that are accessible when the building is closed or the square as well.
Yeah.
So that actually, I I should probably touch on that. So restrooms for the square and a possible seating area would actually be here. So we would try to take off the lean-tos, restore the original historical building, and make some restrooms, probably where we're sitting now, and have like maybe, you know, small park bench, whatever it is, or expand parking somehow. But we tried to fit the outdoor restrooms in the lot across the street, and there just seemed to be not enough space. And we kind of realized, you know, if we were to restore this original building, that would be an opportunity to provide those amenities for the square function.
Has there been any talk of additional parking around this area?
We would provide significant parking with the City Hall project. I think that would add 60 spaces.
Across the street?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's good, hard for me as someone who's finds it easier to talk than think to absorb some of this stuff, and I consciously tried to do that because and again, we were, you know, in a similar capacity, you guys on the outside looking in for a lot of the planning. It was good, I think, to allow staff to work directly with a firm that handles that type of stuff. And, you know, a couple of I think I maybe told Chelsea, if it's not on the square from a city hall perspective, I don't even want to hear about it. And challenging that to a certain degree with what the library should have now, let alone 10 and 30 years from now, kind of changed that perspective a lot. The square is obviously important for the same reason we talk about with East Broadway, but allowing that plan, again, however, it's the same, you know, dynamic as the regional park, I think, is execution is one thing versus a plan, and hopefully they're pretty well aligned, but paying for all those things is a concern too. So, but I think it was a very good, you know, this is going to sound dismissive, but thought experiment, and you know, with what we have, and that is a nice thing too, that they're city-owned properties, in large part, we do all of this, so that was a good thing to see 30 years down the road. We have the land that we need to do a lot of what we need to do. Building on it is a thing, and where it's kind of the big one now, so.
So what happens to the lot that Ivy wanted?
That's the library rec center.
That's the library. All right.
Yep.
Gotcha.
As part of the plan.
Well,
So,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I don't want to get, you know, maybe I'm a little gun shy after the fall we had in that plan, but that I don't want to, it's not going to be that, it's going to be this. That's an option, their primary option, that they proposed there. And again, I'm not saying this because I have a better plan for that, I don't, but it just, I don't want that to be a, you know, it's not like we know we're going to do this and have the funding in place to get a new library built on that property in 2027. They did provide cost estimates on most everything that you probably double at this point, given that it's a month old. But again, good, I think, and it was good. So we did, at council, we got one, I think I'm saying this right, one presentation directly from the firm, and then one meeting with the department heads too. So it was good to kind of hear both sides of those. And it's not yet done, so that's why I think you haven't seen a formal, here's what it is, thing.
A rec center for town. That was really nice for all the kids in town.
Everybody, really.
Well, yeah, for everyone, yeah.
Yeah.
Doug, you
Because I
visit
imagine Parks and Rec guy he'll be out there.
Not just for kids like that.
For the older programs. The senior programs.
That's probably older than all of you. You don't know it.
I think probably. Okay, well, thank you. That's a lot to think of and anticipate for the city. So anything from the commission? Thank you for tonight. It was good to see everyone
Very good.
again. And look forward to our next meeting. And so
Make a motion to adjourn.
okay,
Second.